All right, so today we're going to talk about circumference. Okay, circumference, and we're talking about circles. So this is in geometry chapter. Chapter 7 was some geometry, talk about triangles and whatnot. But now we're going to move on to circles and other shapes, and trying to find the measurements related to those shapes. Okay, so the first one is the circle, and circumference is a very important part of being able to measure with circles, and it's a simple formula where we're going to go over. But before we get there, we're going to start with what are the parts of a circle, okay? All right, so parts of a circle is the first thing that we're going to talk about. All right, so this is what you're going to do. Draw a circle to the best of your abilities, nice and big, not too big. All right, not bad, not bad. All right, so the first vocabulary words, we're going to do a couple of vocabulary words here. First thing right here in the center of the circle is what we call the center of the circle, okay? So the center is the exact middle point. It is the equal distance between that and all the other parts of the edge of the circle, okay? So the center is in the middle. Pretty simple. Makes a lot of sense, all right? The next vocabulary word that I want to know is this line that goes from the center to the edge. And this could be anywhere. So it's not just this particular line. Any line that goes from the center to the edge is what we call the radius, okay? Or R, okay, for radius. All right, and so I'm going to spell that out for you right here. So the radius and the plural is radii, okay, in case you ever, if you're wondering about that, okay. The radius is the distance from the center to the edge of a circle, okay? So any one of these lines, so for example, anything that starts in the middle and goes out towards the edge is what we call a radius. So that would be a radius, that's a radius, that's a radius. Any of these lines are what we call a radius, a radii. These are all radii. Okay, you don't have to draw all of them, just the original one. Okay, so anything that goes from the center to the edge, you can think of it as it radiates from the middle to the outside. Radiates. Okay. The next word that I want us to go over, okay, is what if we have a line that goes from one edge all the way to the other edge and goes through the center, okay? From one edge to the other, and what's really most important is it has to go through the center, okay? It has to go through the center. So what is that called? That has a special word, special name too. We're going to use the letter D, and that stands for diameter. The diameter, okay, the diameter goes from edge to edge and through the center. So it's the distance across a circle through the center. So that's really important. It has to go through the center. Now, here's a question for you. How does a radius and a diameter compare to each other? Right? If I'm going to, let me erase this word center for right now just to get it out of the way. If I'm looking at radius and diameter, right? Remember, the radius goes from the center to the edge, and the diameter goes all the way through but hits the center, okay? We know the diameter is longer, but how much longer? How much longer is a diameter than a radius? Right. Let's think about it. Well, or rather, how does a radius compare to a diameter? Well, check it out. If you draw a radius I'll do a different color here, okay? Remember, a radius goes from the center to the edge. So that's a radius. And another one that goes from the center to the edge. So that's a radius. So that means that if I have two radii together, it's equal to 1 diameter, right? So you could say that a radius is half of a diameter, or you can say that a diameter is twice a radius. Now, how do I, sometimes it's really easy to get these words confused. So this is the one way that I like to think about it. Okay, I already said one, which is the radius radiates from the middle. Okay, another way you could think about it is the diameter is the longer word. There are just more letters in the word diameter. Longer word, longer line. That's a good way to remember it as well. Okay. All right, so we've got a center, we've got a radius, we've got a diameter. Okay, there's one more vocabulary word that we'll go over really quickly here. Okay. Okay, and that's what if I have a line that goes from one edge to another edge but doesn't go through the center? Okay, this is called a chord. Okay. A chord, kind of like in music, like a chord. At least the word is a chord, okay, goes from one edge to the other, but not through the center. Okay. Right. So we got 3 vocabulary words, or 4 technically if you count center. Okay, again, a radius is half, a diameter is full, and a chord is just a random line that does not touch the center at all. Okay. So that's the difference between the 3. So again, the most important part is understanding the difference between a diameter and a radius. Diameter is twice as long a radius. A radius is half as long as a diameter. Okay. So R for radius, D for diameter. Again, diameter is the longer word, thus it's the longer line. That's not true always, but for this case, it will work. Okay, so let's do a problem here, just so we can see what kind of things you might encounter. So I'm going to ask you to find the diameter or the radius, depending on what you're given and depending on what you need to find. So let's start with an easier one here. Let's say I had a circle and the line that went right through the center, okay, was 14 inches. So question, is this a diameter or a radius? Put in the chat, what do you think? Is this a diameter or a radius? Thank you for those replies, very good. Yes, this is a diameter. So that means what am I missing? What do I need to find is the other one. So what is the radius of this circle? All right. So if this is a diameter, that means I'm looking for the radius. And remember, the radius is simply half of the diameter, right? So I just say, okay, well, 14 divided by 2 is equal to 7 inches. And that is my radius. That makes sense? Let's do another one. Here's another circle. And let's say that right here, from here to here, is 8 centimeters. So again, is this a radius or a diameter? What I just drew, that 8 centimeters, does that represent the radius or the diameter? Yes, very good. It is the radius. So that means I'm missing, or I want to find the other one, the diameter. Now, diameter is not half, it is bigger. So what is my diameter here? All right. Very good. Yeah. So all I have to do is say, well, I just need to multiply 2 times my radius, which will give me my diameter, which is 16 centimeters. Right? Pretty good. Okay. So that's part of the circle. Those are the important words to know, radius and diameter. Now, we haven't gotten to circumference yet, but we'll get to that in just a minute.